Hey you! Thanks for coming and investing your time with me on my channel today. So today I'm reviewing a couple of impulse buys I got at Michael's. It's Brie Reese and Joy Lewis. I don't know who Joy Lewis is, but I've had some Brie Reese products and I liked them. They were calligraphy inks and they're really beautiful clear tones, and so that's why I bought it. Okay, so on the palette is this they call it a rainbow shaped palette. I don't know if it's really a rainbow, but it's really nice to hold in the hands, and it's got this backside which has the powdery glaze on. You could totally use that as a mixing palette. And then it's got all those little wells, which absolutely works great with how I paint 100%. If you think that you want little wells of lots of different colors, if you paint small like I do and don't need a lot of paint mixed in quantity, that's a great palette for you. Totally glad I bought it. Do not feel the same way about these. From the get-go, I'm not gonna lie. The experience of trying them out was, an experience, and I always like trying new things, but do I wish I could have done somebody else's dime and not owned it? 100%. So the first thing that's weird about these guys is, like, it sort of rose up and stuck to that plastic part, and it was weird. I didn't know how I was going to deal with it, so I just chopped it off and smushed it back in. At the end of the channel, not at the end of the channel, at the end of the video, you can see where these sort of chunks that I tuck and wedged back in, sort of melted back into the pans. And so after that happening overnight, I suspect that there's something weird with the formula of these and that they just need to be stored flat. I got online and I talked to my watercolor guru group. They're tremendously well-informed, talented artists on the watercolor mentor group in Facebook, and everybody had no feedback on to why they would do that. And so they're one of my main places that I go to when I'm stumped. Okay, so I've been painting with a lot of chalky watercolors lately, and so these watercolors were really weird because they were definitely not chalky. They were sticky and slimy at the same time, which isn't anything I've experienced with other watercolors. And they did it particularly badly in this very saturated format that I like to do when swatching my cards, so I can have an idea of what the paints look like at their most saturated point. You can tell in these purples that the red purple doesn't have the same impact as the blue purple does. And so that's, that's why you swatch. You can find that information out. After I swatched, I actually needed to stop and take a break. So this is a new day, it's actually at night, and so hence the costume change and the difference in lighting. I needed to walk away from it. I was very unhappy with the experience. I didn't like how they felt, and I didn't feel like the colors had the clarity that I was hoping for. So I really feel like this is like a color theory lesson in a watercolor palette format, which you'd think is cool, but like honestly, I think they said it should have just like gave me the three pigments, the beautiful magenta, the yellow, and the blue, and had me fill out a piece of paper and mix these colors up, because like these colors weren't that nice. They weren't as vibrant as the calligraphy inks that I had, and they were kind of awkward. I feel like if they had mixed with different pigments and done each one of these little compartments with different pigments and really focused on making true colors or clear tones or separate more difference between them, that it would have been a nicer palette. I was so disappointed. So highlights, happy things about this palette. It has a really nice magenta, and when you add water to it, it isn't that weird sticky slimy technique of texture. And so the technique that you normally use with adding watercolor is not so bad. Would I be like, go run out and buy this watercolor palette? Absolutely not. If you have a friend who's bought this watercolor palette and you can take it for a test drive, why not? So I have a watercolor palette that I feel like I should pull out and take for a drive with you guys. One of my favorite YouTubers absolutely hates them and talks about how crappy and terrible they are. And so just because I don't like them doesn't mean you will also not like them. It happens. Oh, okay. So we have like 2 or 3 cars around that have like a little legion of ducks with different costumes and party hats on it, and I find it absolutely amusing every time I see him. I see him at the doctor's office a lot, and at like the grocery store, and it tickles my fancy every time I see him, and so I wanted to do my own version of him, and so that's why I picked this one out of all of the 3 sketches. I do think that I liked all the sketches, and I might go back and paint them in my sketchbook off camera because they were fun. As you can see, this duck is the duck that I decided that was in that first sketch that I didn't use. The sketch that I did with this sort of format for that big large duck, I thought it had chicken lips. That's actually why I drew the chicken in the next sketch. And so that's why I didn't do a direct transfer of the sketches to this main drawing, because it was a little bit wonky in how I drew it. Okay, so I'm sitting here watching the brush. I'm so glad this isn't a how-to video, because I stuck with this one brush, and we all know better. We know better. We own all the different brush sizes because there's a reason for them. It makes your life easier if you don't try to just get it all done with a super small brush. It happens to the best of us. I made it work. But you know, if you're looking for tips and tricks, go ahead and make sure to use one of your bigger brushes. So at one point in time, I do a wash of that sort of cyan color over this blue with some reds in it, and it went over and it did a glaze, and then I think over time it reactivated, and so you know, not the worst I've experienced with having watercolors with layers. It wasn't too terrible. I've had better results with other brands, not gonna lie. Oh, speaking of, on the 2 different papers, their swatch card, these guys came out shiny on their swatch card. It didn't happen with my all cotton paper, and it didn't happen on the painting where I watered it down a whole lot more, but heads up on that. if you still want to give this guy a test drive. Thank you so much for visiting with me. Till next time. Bye.